I'm a forensic practitioner with Cheshire and Wirral Partnership Foundation Trust. My role is to support people with a learning disability and or a mental health condition who may be coming into contact with the criminal justice system. My role is to make sure that people get an equitable experience once they may be going down that pathway. My main focus is to make sure, one, of the reasonable adjustments, and two, it's a least restrictive pathway. That doesn't mean to say that they're not going to be prosecuted, but it just means that we make sure that they get the best experience that we can offer that's the most appropriate to their needs. So part of the process of supporting individuals with a learning disability or a mental health condition that may come into contact with the criminal justice system is the reasonable adjustments. And a reasonable adjustment is making sure that people who have these issues are able to continue down the pathway of the criminal justice system if that's the most appropriate way to go, and understand and get a reasonable crack at it, really. So it's things like making sure that they get information in small chunks. So rather than giving them lots of information and expecting them to understand and retain that, is making sure that they understand the small pieces of information, giving them time to process it. It might be that we would be asking for people to get an appropriate adult. So if they have been arrested, they may need to have somebody with them to make sure that they get the breaks, and that they may need to give them that processing time. Also, it can be things like thinking about the environment that they're being spoken to in. Is it busy? Is it noisy? Is there lots going on? Which unfortunately in custody suites and hospitals, that's very often the case. I think we're getting much better at that. There's quite often quieter rooms that perhaps people can go and sit and be spoken to, so that we can help them understand what's happening and what's expected of them, and that if we do need some support, that we can look at getting that in place so that we can continue. So you'd make a reasonable adjustment for people that have got a learning disability, and that's in order to make sure that they understand the process. So are they able to understand what's happening? Are they able to retain that information, and are they able to feed it back? So have they got capacity to continue with that experience that they may be going through? Or is it a case of we need to think about how we can get them to understand, retain and feed back that information? So that's the reasonable adjustment. Is it a case of we need to change our language, so make it simplified? Do we need to give them small pieces of information, check that they've understood that, and then move on to the next piece of information that we're going to be going with? Are we explaining what's going to be happening next? So if we explain, right, somebody's going to come back, they're going to ask you to sit in front of a camera, and we're going to take your photograph, and then we'll ask you to do your fingerprints. It's going to be on a digital pad. Don't be worried about that, it doesn't hurt. Those kind of things, they can help to calm people through the experience and not become more distressed. Sometimes it's about, letting people calm down and sit and giving them some time, making sure again that they understand what's going on, that you're there to help them. Sometimes it's about your tone and keeping your voice low and calm, so that they know that things aren't going to be escalating, and asking if there's somebody that they could get to help them. I guess if you're in a clinical environment where you may have presented at hospital or at a GP surgery distressed, again it's about that. If you've got a quieter area, they may be offering them somewhere where you can go to sit quietly, somewhere without the bright lights and the noise of the usual traffic of those kind of places, which isn't always easy, but sometimes giving that extra time to do that in the long run is a lot quicker than trying to de-escalate somebody that's very distressed in a busy environment. Another consideration is whether or not somebody is on prescribed medication. So they may carry an alert card with them, which may give a clue to explaining maybe some of their behaviours. So they may have a condition which, when they're becoming unwell, they may show signs and symptoms of distress, which you wouldn't necessarily associate with a medical condition. So if you ask if they've got a medical card, or if you check their belongings, they may have an alert card which can then direct you to either contacting their GP or maybe their community team, or they may carry medication with them, and you can check with them whether they've taken that morning, or whether they need to take that as a rescue medication. Sometimes people can present as becoming agitated when they have certain conditions like epilepsy. It can be the start of a seizure. They may display some of that behaviour and look like they're becoming aggressive, when actually it's seizure activity and you would need to get medical help rather than the police. Again, if you're wanting to find out about medication, you may say, have you got any medication with you? Because perhaps they can't remember the name of the medication. Some of them are really long and complicated to remember. So have you got your tablets with you? Are they in your bag? And then you'll be able to get the information off that of what medication they're on, how often they're supposed to take it. You can ask them if they've taken the medication with them. They may have taken more than they should have done, but also you'll have details of the pharmacist that's dispensed the medication, who then may be able to help you find out which GP they're under if they're not able to tell you that information. There is a process called the Evergreen Log, which Cheshire Police use. Merseyside don't at the moment. And you can contact the local police force, the Public Protection Unit. I guess the key to finding out whether somebody would need some support, whether that's you consider that they may have a learning disability, autism or mental health, is to contact the local duty team, which is the local authority's social work team. That can be found on a website, the local authority website. There's usually a 24-hour number. It's usually an 0300 number, and you can ring that. There's somebody available, and you can pass on their name, and they will then be able to let you know whether they've got some support in place. Obviously that's not available to members of the public, but if you've got a concern, you can raise the concern at that time, and then they can make the inquiries, and if they have got support, you can get in contact with the house, or potentially you could be making a referral and asking for the local authority to then trigger some of their assessments to go out and offer some support. Other conditions can be, people carry alert cards for autism, which again, and people after COVID have started to wear lanyards, which is great if that's what they want to do, to highlight that they may have a condition that causes them to show unexpected behaviours that perhaps you wouldn't see before. So thinking about your communication with somebody, it's about keeping that information short. It's about keeping it in bite-sized chunks. So giving somebody a piece of information, giving them time to process that, and to think about it, and maybe checking with them that they've understood what you say, which is not just did you understand that, but tell me what I've just said. So what was it that we were talking about? So can you remember what I said was going to happen next? Those kind of things. Try not to use acronyms. We all do that. Try not to use idioms. So don't, oh, it's raining cats and dogs, none of the pull your socks up, all of those kind of things. They're quite difficult to understand. Time is also another difficult concept for people to process. So by saying, it's going to be in a couple of hours, well, what do you mean by that? Do you mean 2? Do you mean 3? Do you mean 10? So it needs to be, we're hoping that somebody will be coming by 4 o'clock. I will come back at 3:30 and let you know if that's going to happen. Things again, checking that they've understood that information, checking that they've been able to retain it. So after you've had a conversation with them, just saying to them, so can you remember what time did I say that we were going to try and find out for you? Because again, when you're in a stressful situation, everybody finds it difficult to keep hold of that information. And if you've got a mental health condition, if you've definitely got a learning disability, some of that can be very overwhelming. You may think it might be easier if you write things down. You might need to draw a little picture to go with it with certain people. You need to be mindful that you don't offend people. You don't want to treat them like a child. They're not a child. But you want to make sure that they can hold on to that information. And it might be about checking in on them a few times and just checking that they've retained the information a few times. Quite often we tend to give people a leaflet, don't we? We say, oh, go and read this leaflet, look at the poster, go and check out this information, look on the website. It may be that reading isn't one of the strong points. It may be that they can read, but actually retaining the information when they've read it is very difficult. It may be that English is a second language. So sometimes it may be that you could say, you've got some information in a leaflet. Is that the best way for me to give that to you? Shall I talk it through with you and you can take it away with you and you can give it to your mum, your carer, a friend, your partner? It's not that necessarily that you don't share the information in a written format, but you need to make sure that the person that you're giving it to understands it. There's also absolutely loads of easy read information that's online and usually free to download. CWP have got some great leaflets, and I know that lots of other places have too. You just put easy read and they will pop up. So the government actually have, as part of their reasonable adjustments, so just going back to reasonable adjustments, they have to do that, and they've got lots and lots of information. They've even got an easy read about reasonable adjustments. They've got easy reads about going to a custody suite. There's easy reads about going to your GP, what to expect, medication, loads of things around reasonable adjustments, and that's with words and pictures. There's videos that are online. MenCap do videos, Build do videos. So there's lots of things that you can look at if you want to get something visual. But the main message would be checking that somebody understands. Don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to ask if they've got support and whether they would like some help, because sometimes just those questions reduce the amount of time that you would be in a situation where they're very distressed. So if you come across somebody that's needing some support and it seems like they're not able to take in some of the information for whatever reason, whether that's a learning disability, a mental health condition, or they're just showing signs of being very distressed, it can sometimes help just to kind of signpost them and let them know what's happening. So explain who you are, tell them your name, tell them your role and what's expected of them and what you can do to help them through the journey. So where they are, what's going to be happening next and how that will look. So walk them through what you're expecting of them. So it may be that you're saying, hello, my name's Amanda, I'm a nurse, I work with people that get into trouble with the police. I can see that you're very upset. Have you got anybody at home who helps you? And that might be enough information, and then you can find the answer to those questions, and then you move on and you would be saying, I can see that you're very distressed. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask you where you live. Can you tell us your address, or do we need to get somebody to help you with that? We're going to write down where you live, and we're going to contact somebody at your house and see if they can come in and talk to you. Is that okay? And then it may be that you give them some information to say, we've spoken to you now, we would like you to come back next Tuesday at 2:00. We'll write that down for you. So can you remember what time I said you needed to come and where you need to come to? So just checking that information. And also, is there somebody that I can contact and pass this on to? We'll write you a letter. Would you like a letter to go to your house? Would you like a letter to go to your carer? Other things that you could do is explain that because you're looking so distressed, we want to check your blood pressure. That means we're going to put a band that goes around your arm. It'll go quite tight and it feels a bit strange, but it doesn't hurt and it doesn't last for long. Is that okay? So just talk them through, and then we'll take it off. And it may be that they're not able to tolerate it at that time, so it might be that you'd say, okay, that's fine, we'll try again a bit later. I guess the other areas that you would be considering is around sensory needs. So that's another reasonable adjustment. So sometimes people can be averse to touch, and that can cause them to become distressed. So if they don't like to be touched, and you're in an environment, maybe you're in a doctor's surgery and they might have an injury and they're causing you some concerns, you've called the police because you're frightened that they're going to hurt somebody, and actually laying hands on them could make it worse. So again, it's back to that check-in. Sometimes people, you're right, sometimes it may be that when people are very distressed, touch is what they actually are craving. So they may respond very well to hand over hand, touching the shoulder. The only thing that I would be mindful of in that situation is if somebody is very distressed and you don't know them, you don't know what the reaction is going to be. So if you get very close to somebody that's very distressed, you are within a distance where they could assault you. So I guess it's about asking, would you like, would it help if? So those are the kind of things that you would be saying. I would still be mindful, still think about your distance from that person, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where if they are very distressed, sometimes people lash out. It's not necessarily towards a person, it's just, I don't want, I guess the three key messages are, if you don't ask, you don't know. So don't be afraid to ask about the person, about their situation and their needs. Is there somebody that could help them? Have they got somebody at home that they could ring that would be able to explain and give you a better understanding of how to support the person? Take your time waiting for a response. Just because somebody doesn't answer straight away doesn't mean to say that they're not communicating with you. It may they just need processing time, and giving that time will help to de-escalate the situation, and that will reduce the frustration. I guess and the final one is check that they understand the information. That is key. So not did you understand that, but what did I say? Where are we going? Who are we going to see? What are we going to do? Is that okay?